Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I was so lucky to be interviewed last week from Sarina Fazan, who is an incredible media talent right here in Tampa Bay. And she interviewed me about mental health during this pandemic, during all of the things that are going on. I actually think in this interview, I said um, unracial rest instead of racial unrest. Yeah, so I'm glad I got to do this like prep before this video, so you'll know that and not call me out on it. I don't know what happened to my words that day, but anywho, the interview was great because I had an opportunity to talk about mental health, and really, that's the goal. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity to be interviewed by this beautiful woman who is making a big impact in Tampa Bay.
Hi everyone, it's Sarina Fazan. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm in my podcast studio, and I just did a podcast with Sharon Fekete. Are you so proud of me that I got?
So proud.
Oh my gosh! Well, we did this podcast, and the podcast is going to be airing in a couple weeks. But Sharon has so much to talk about, and I said we need to do a Facebook Live. You are the author of The Broken Road to Mental Health in Life and Business. Jordan here is running the Facebook Live, and I want him to get a close-up of this book. So Sharon, your story is remarkable, and we are talking to you right now for this Facebook Live because it is October, where we recognize mental health awareness.
Yes.
But you don't like the word recognize as much. You want to use
honor.
You like honor. Tell us why you like the word honor.
Well, I've been very candid in my book and in my delivery, purposefully, like saying I smoked crack versus cocaine and suicide versus I struggled with depression, because if we're really going to normalize this conversation and remove the stigma, I believe the only way to do it is candid, uncomfortable conversations like this, because there's no shame in all that I've overcome. Certainly, I'm very proud of what I've overcome, not proud of what I had to go through to get to where I am today, but it certainly made me appreciate life more and appreciate these conversations more. I think honoring mental health is celebrating it. You know, I think that you would agree that during COVID-19, the most important thing is our mental health, of course, our physical health, but dealing with isolation, not being able to see our families that are in nursing homes, and the trouble, the unracial rest. It's been a tumultuous time. So why hinder that conversation and make it look pretty?
And I wanted to talk to you about that, and have this candid discussion on our live platform.
You're awesome.
Oh no, thank you. I really didn't pay her to say that. That just came out of nowhere. Thank you, Sharon. But I wanted to ask you. Right now, I absolutely agree. At the very beginning of this crisis, this pandemic that hit us, I did interview several doctors, and my huge concern, of course, the physical health, of course, but the mental health.
Yeah.
So right now, you do work with a lot of doctors.
Yes.
And you shared with me that psychiatrists, psychologists are in fact seeing more patients.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm so grateful for the team that works in mental health. And one of my psychiatrists in Sarasota who does alternative and telehealth has been just so busy that, in a time where so many people are losing their jobs, he's trying to get more people to help, more nurse practitioners that are in behavioral health, because it's so busy. I mean, people are really struggling. I think people were struggling before, but when you now have to be in isolation or you have fear and anxiety of the unknown, it just makes everything so much more paramount in terms of how to function, and the loss of jobs and the loss of sense of where we're going in this world. So the psychiatrists have been so busy. All of my psychologist friends, I'm so happy when somebody calls and asks me for a therapist referral, because I have a lot of great, in what I feel like is my team of mental health experts, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor. I've only had tremendous experience with what it's like to be somebody who has suffered from depression, alcoholism, and addiction. And I know that the reason, I always like to say, the reason that Me Too movement worked was because it was Me Too, right?
Yeah.
So when you give somebody the opportunity to share that they're not alone, and then they feel more comfortable, and then all of it comes out, and then we start to heal. So if we make it a safe space like you're making it today, to have these hard conversations, more people won't feel like they can't ask for help. I mean, we were talking about your friend Mary, who recently had died by suicide, and too many people have died by suicide. It's a tragedy. So I think that anybody that can, like myself, there were many people in my life that were there to help me. It would be very selfish not to try to help somebody else.
Mary Gerasi, who you mentioned, was a videographer at a local station where I worked, and it was such shocking news to so many of us. And so thank you for mentioning her as well.
And that is, if I may interject, what you said about shocking. Almost everybody that dies by suicide, that is what somebody says.
That it's shocking, but
It's shocking.
But we are saying it should not be shocking because there are signs out there.
There are signs, but there are questions, right? So in the podcast, we talked about what it was that saved my life was Ben Figuero's, my father's EAP counselor, asking me that specific question, which a lot of people understandably are afraid to ask.
And the question, and tell people that question that he asked.
Are you having suicidal thoughts? So that was the question that ended that isolation for me. I was in a safe space now with somebody that I trusted, that I could tell, and that's when the help started. Then I was introduced to the psychiatrist. Then I was put on medication. I was in a 12-step recovery group. I had the love of my family and support of my friends. So there was opportunity to admit it with somebody I felt safe with. But if we're not asking the questions, or if we're saying the things that most people say, like, well, just, go outside. You have so much. What's to be depressed about? I had so much. I came from a family of love. I went to private school my whole life. I grew up in Long Island, New York. I had everything, but I didn't have me. And when we suffer from depression and anxiety or any mental health issues, there should not be all of this stigma and shame around it. I don't know actually anybody that isn't suffering from something or in their family. And now, today, with this pandemic and with the holidays coming up, when my mom asked me the other day, what are we going to, actually it went like this, what are we going to do for Christmas?
Because they're
from Ireland.
Beautiful Irish accent.
Yes. So,
but Sharon, let me ask you, and this is, and here's a question I often wonder about. We're living in this unprecedented time where people are also losing their jobs. They don't have their job. They're wondering about health insurance. It's so scary. So, and oftentimes, does health insurance cover mental illness? So if you're in a position where you need help, but you're not sure how you're going to pay for it,
right?
Where do you go?
So a few things. Yes, there is free help, and I want to mention that. But even Vology was the last company I mentioned to you before that I spoke about, which I was so proud of them for having this conversation. And they have an EAP program in the practices.
And what is
I've
EAP?
run. So it's an employee assistance program, which offers free counseling sessions with your benefits. Now, everybody's benefit plan is different, so you have to speak to HR, which we just love doing that. But really, it's a private way to get that first maybe few sessions, and then depending upon the plan, right, of the company, they might have EAP. They might, look at all the apps that we have now that are available for us. We could just go on our phone. So that shame isn't so bad, and they're reasonably priced. But let me talk about the free. Okay?
Yes, because what if you own, as so many people have a small business, which maybe they don't have insurance, or they've lost their jobs.
Sure. So the number one place I'm going to recommend is NAMI, right? So it's the National Association for Mental Illness, and we have NAMI in Pinellas County. We have it in Hillsborough County. We have it in Pasco County. And because of this pandemic, which ends up being a silver lining for us, they sometimes only had meetings one night a week for Pinellas or one night for Hillsborough. But now, because it's on Zoom, you can go to different meetings every day and it's free. And you have somebody that is a mental health professional advocate that runs these meetings. There's also the Tampa Bay Crisis Center. There's Celebrate Recovery. And it's not just for people that are having addiction or alcoholism or depression or suicidal thoughts. There's also an opportunity for people that are going through a divorce. I mean, look at how many people didn't get along during this quarantine.
Right.
And I mean,
I know.
I'm very blessed that my husband and I we're quite content, but there's so many people that struggle. There's child abuse. I mean, there's domestic violence. What would we do if we didn't mention people that are in homes that are violent? So those are all free resources. But also, listen, I work in the medical industry. I work with doctors. I talked to a psychiatrist just yesterday about this. If somebody calls and they don't have insurance, ask the question, do you have a sliding scale? I lost my job. But somebody who's in the mental health world that isn't going to help somebody right now. But I really think that people have gone above and beyond. There's also 12-step recovery. So if you're having addiction issues, there's free help online. Just search Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Family Anonymous for people that are suffering with their family members that are going through stuff. There's so many free resources out there. But of course, right now, these corporations really need to make mental health and mental wellness a priority. We're just starting, right? We're just starting to get a little more comfortable because of celebrities that have died by suicide. And although it is so unfortunate, they have given us a platform to make it more okay to have this discussion, because we see somebody like Kate Spade who doesn't, right?
Gosh.
I mean, people are like, why would you do that? Well, there's no socioeconomic pattern to this whole mental health and mental illness world that we're living in.
You've answered so many questions for us, Sharon. I really appreciate it, and especially answering those questions about where to get free help. And I think that is great advice. Why not call a psychiatrist or a psychologist and say, do you have a sliding scale?
Yes.
But Sharon is going to be on the podcast soon, on the record, and of course we'll let you know that. But thanks again for joining us on our Facebook Live.
Thank you.
Oh, Gabriel says, show the book one more time. The Broken Road to Mental Health in Life and in Business. You can get this book on Amazon.
On Target.
And
it will be on Audible real soon.
And it only took her 5 days to write the book.
It's only 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
To read it.
It's, because it came from the heart. That's why it only took 5 days. And thank you for being so open and so honest and sharing your story. And honestly, by sharing your story, I am confident. I know that you are going to help somebody out there.
If we help one person, it's always worth it.
It's always worth it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.